Last season was tough. 15 defeats and only the Super Cup to show for it. Despite that disappointing season, hopes were still high, as a new season was always a new chance to get things right. Sporting would say goodbye to Acosta, Schmeichel and Jordanov, among others. Manuel Fernandes had stepped aside the managerial role after the Super Cup win in the end of the 2001 season. The Romanian Laszlo Bologna would take charge as Sporting decided to bet on homegrown players bringing them success. Sporting would make some smart investments in the transfer market. Mariusz Nicolai would come, a compatriot of Bologna. Rui Bent would be taken from the Boa Vista side that had just lifted the league title, and Luis Felipe from the Braga team that had beaten them home and away. This would be a modest but potent squad, and what a better way to open the season than with a derby game. Sporting would take on Porto to start the season how they ended it. The result would also be the same as last season, as Sporting were able to beat Porto 1-0 with a goal from Nicolai. Sporting were off to a great start. Then they threw it away with a 3-0 thumping by Belenenses, which was compounded by a 1-0 loss to Alverca. The minnows the Sporting were never able to beat. Sporting is in 16th place after 3 games in the relegation zone, and they need help. That help would come in the bombshell move of Mario Jardel to Sporting from Galatasaray. However, this wasn't Jardel's first rodeo in Portugal. He had got 130 goals in just 4 years for Porto, getting the Golden Boot in 1999 and 2000 with a goal average of 1.04 per game. So really this was a huge transfer. After seeing him make scoring goals so easy for Porto, Sporting now had a potent striker in their squad. This would be the start of something glorious. Or would it? Despite Jardel's inclusion and goal, União de Leiria would find an equalizer through Silas and end up with a 1-1 draw. Sporting was going nowhere fast. But here's the thing about Jardel. His trade is scoring goals and scoring goals in bulk. He would score from the penalty spot and aided with a Nicolai brace. Sporting took a 3-1 victory against Gil Vicente, and Sporting would get yet another 3-1 win, this time over Farense with Mario Jardel scoring a hat-trick after a late goal, proving that he was still worthy and very much a threat. Sporting would climb up to 9th ahead of their first European game against Midtjylland. Sporting would dispatch the day in 6-2 on aggregate. This would end the first hurdle elimination streak for Sporting that stretched all the way back to 1998. Sporting's league return would be a 5-0 demolition of Vitória de Guimarães. However, Braga would steal Sporting's thunder with a 2-1 win, and Santa Clara would frustrate Sporting in a 0-0 draw. 9 games were played and Sporting was 6th. 4 wins, 2 draws, 3 losses. If Sporting were title contenders, they sure weren't showing it. At least Sporting would pile on goals against Halmstad in the UEFA Cup. If the first round 6-2 aggregate was big, this would be even bigger. A 7-1 humiliation on aggregate with 6 of those goals coming at home to put Sporting to the next round, and that momentum carried over to the league where Sporting would trounce Paços Ferreira 6-0 and Salgueiros 5-1. This team was built to score goals, but not anymore in Europe. AC Milan, a historically big club, would be the ones to eliminate Sporting as they lost 2-0 in Milan and then would deny the comeback in Lisbon to snuff out Sporting's promising UEFA Cup campaign as soon as they faced a worthy opponent. As revenge, Sporting would absolutely lay siege on the league, burning the reigning champions Boa Vista 2-0 at Alvalade to banish the loss that they faced the previous season, and went on piling 2 more wins against Marítimo and Varzim ahead of the Lisbon derby. Sporting were in first after this path of fury, leading Porto by a point, Benfica by 2 and Boa Vista by 3. A win against Benfica would make things even sweeter. Benfica would storm to a 2-goal lead, with home fans delirious as this would give them the league lead.
Simão Sabrosa em velocidade, já passou por Filbé, pode ser perigoso, o cruzamento atrasado e o golo! De Zaovic! Grande golo do Benfica!
Then come Mario Jardel to save the day.
Jardel a cair, a simular uma grande penalidade, é penalti! O árbitro Duarte Gomes assinala a grande penalidade. Jardel consegue converter ou não o penalti na baliza Robenenka. Momento de expectativa, Jardel a tirar e o gol!
With 2 goals in 2 minutes to silence the Stadio de Luz and save Sporting with a 2-2 draw. It wasn't ideal, but a loss would have been way worse. Sporting even kept the lead as Porto drew.
Está Jardel e o gol do Sporting. Jardel no minuto 46.
Sporting's won over Vitória de Setúbal with a last-minute goal in the last game 2001 would make sure the Sporting held on to the league at Christmas, which hadn't happened in many years. Sporting would open 2002 with a 2-1 win over Beira-Mar, which would give Sporting a 3-point lead over Boa Vista, ahead of a game against Porto, Mário Jardel's former club. Porto took the lead with a penalty, but Sporting would find a way to score 2 goals in 2 minutes.
Já está em jogo, secretário. Pedro Barbosa a tirar e o golo! É grande golo de Pedro Barbosa para o Sporting. Estava ainda a regressar ao relevado, numa altura que o João Pinto pode marcar, cai e é penalti contra a equipa do Porto.
Mas o guarda-redes do Porto quase conseguia adiar a proeza do golo 150 do avançado brasileiro.
Deck then equalized the game in the 73rd minute, and then the 2 goal scorers, Pedro Barbosa and then Mário Jardel, got sent off. Sporting played with 8 and managed to hold on to a 2-2 draw, and were understandably bitter after this game. Those red cards were cleared up and Sporting beat Belenenses 2-0 with a brace from Mário Jardel. 2 more wins in the league followed against Alverca and União de Leiria to give Sporting a 1-point lead over Boa Vista, ahead of a semi-final duel against Marítimo in the Cup. Marítimo would take the lead via Adel Sabri in the 30th minute, which they would hold on until half-time. Or would they? Sporting won a penalty in added time, and Jardel would take. Okay, they held it to half-time. Nalitzis would give Sporting the equaliser. It looked like this game would go into extra time as both teams couldn't get past each other. That was until Gaúcho in the 81st minute gave Marítimo the lead. However, Sporting would make sure that this match went into extra time with an 85th minute goal from André Cruz. João Pinto would win Sporting the game in the 92nd minute to stamp Sporting's ticket at Jamor. Gil Vicente would hold Sporting to a draw right after, giving Boa Vista the lead. For as much as Sporting was strong, this would be a hard battle. Funnily enough, Gil Vicente would also frustrate Boa Vista to a draw, which gave Sporting the league lead right back as Sporting beat Farense Vitória Guimarães, and then they would be stopped 2-2 by Braga despite getting a 2-goal lead early. Sporting had a 1-point lead over Boa Vista with 9 games to go. Sporting would get a 3-game win streak against Santa Clara, Paços Ferreira and Salgueiros ahead of the big game on matchday 29 against Boa Vista. 1-point lead and a win here would basically guarantee the league title. They couldn't let the mistakes of last season repeat. And thankfully it didn't. Both teams couldn't get a goal and the result would stay 0-0. Sporting got 2 more victories against Marítimo and Varzim, ahead of the Lisbon derby against Benfica at Alvalade. Benfica would take the lead in the 73rd minute and hold on to it. Sporting was looking at a loss, and this would open the door to Boa Vista, being so dominant all year, and yet it could fall apart once again due to a loss at Benfica. They were lucky in 2000. Would it happen again? Then Benfica lost the plot. Argel and Zlatko Zahovic was sent off as Sporting had an added time penalty. Jardel would convert it in the 96th minute to get a point, and they welcomed a Boa Vista loss to Varzim. The points gap was 4 points, and the league win seemed more and more likely. Sporting would draw against Vitória de Setúbal in a frantic game. Jardel's brace not enough to give Sporting the win, but a Boavista loss against Benfica could mean the Sporting were league champions from the comfort of their couch. Sportingists is tuned into the game, rooting for their bitter rivals to hand them a league title. Sporting were crowned champions. Sporting celebrated their 18th league title with a 2-1 win over Beira-Mar. Sporting had 22 wins, 8 draws and 3 losses. Their second best season, but yet this felt more dominant. Sporting scored 74 goals and conceded 25. Mario Jardel topped the goal charts with 42 goals, exactly double the runner-up score, and picked up the European Golden Boot. Hell, a Marcha do Sporting even topped the charts in Portugal ahead of Shakira in June, the Juveleu album also topping the charts. Sporting were this good that they even won in music. Sporting would also win the cup with a 1-0 victory over Leixões, cementing Sporting's double, their first since 1982, which they also did the league and cup double with. And after all was said and done, Sporting had 2 league titles in 3 years. All the more sweeter considering they had to wait 18 years for just 1 league title until 2000. This season was a smash hit. However, it would be their last at the old Alvalade as the new Alvalade near completion. Given how dominant they were, there was nothing stopping them from winning the league next year and forevermore. But would they?
Trabalhar bem porque é jogo importante e o nosso intuito é vencer. Obrigado, Beto. Ele que vem então juntar-se aos seus colegas nesta festa. Sapinto, uma época extremamente azarada, mas que, enfim, hoje deu um pouco consolado.
Fica a grande consolação e a indescritível sensação de ganhar este campeonato.